Hey everybody, I'm going to talk about Noah's Ark, the flood, how God flooded the earth, why God flooded the earth. I'm going to talk about those things. So, first of all, I just want to say this. I've always loved Noah, but after reading this book by Renner, like, Noah was amazing. I mean, wow. So anyways, I'm going to start off by talking about the ark. So, the ark was 515 feet long. That's 515 feet long and 85 feet wide and 50 feet high. It was 3 stories and it had like compartments in it. And it was made out of gopher wood. In the Bible it says gopher wood. There's no such thing as gopher wood, but there is gopher wood. And so that's the wood that the Lord told Noah to use, and then he told Noah to seal it with pitch, which is tar. And so this made the wood laminated, which made it waterproof. On top of that, there were drogue stones. So these drogue stones, they were like as big as a car, and they had a hole in the top, and those were used. They tied a rope to the stone, and then they hung it over the ark. That way during the waters, when the waters would be all super turbulent, because I'll get to the flood and the way it was, but I'll talk about the drogue stones later, but the drogue stones were to keep the ark from tumbling over. Amazing. But why did God send the flood, and how did God flood the earth? So I have this scripture open here. It's Genesis chapter 7 verse 11. If you want to learn about the flood, it's 6 and 7, I believe. But it says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. What happened was, not only did it rain like crazy, but water also came from the earth. Like the oceans broke up, the land broke up, the earth has plates, those were all broken up and shifted. Literally everything collapsed. Like, this was devastation beyond. And so God could start all over with Noah and his family, the family of 8. So God sends this massive rainstorm from above, and all this broken up waters, like it says here, the great deep was broken up. There's a lot of water underneath us, under the ground. All that was broken up, and it shot up. Like, there's no escaping this flood, y'all. There's absolutely no escaping this flood. There's nothing, even the birds, like, nobody could survive this unless if you were on the ark. And Noah tried his best to get people to listen, but they would not listen. They wanted to keep living and doing what they were doing, messing around with fallen angels. So, contamination of their blood, their DNA. So why did God even send a flood? Because they're evil? Because they're sinning? I mean, that doesn't sound like a loving God at all. They're sinning, just forgive them. It was much more than that. So here's where, and this is all Bible, y'all. This is all Bible. This is a book that has the scriptures in it, but this is all Bible. You probably won't hear about this in church. Here's a demonstration of those drogue stones, though. You see those big stones? I love this book. Okay, so I was talking about why did God even send the flood? Because it wasn't because they were sinning or doing evil. Like, we do that all the time as human beings. So Genesis chapter 6 says And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Sons of God here is talking about the angels that God had set over us, watchers, or most people would call them guardian angels, to watch over us in our fallen state because of what Adam and Eve had done. So these angels, they began to look at the women, and they began to lust after the women. And so 200 of them, they got together, and the leader's name was Simjaza, but there were 200 of them, and they all came together, and they all like agreed, they like bound themselves to this curse for this great sin, that they were going to take these women, take these wives. They were married already. Some of them may not have been, but the sons of God, they were good angels at first, but then they began to lust after women, and then so they left their assignment for the women. Like, that should tell you how dangerous women can be. You better watch out what kind of woman you hook up with, because women can be very alluring and seductive, and even lead men into the wrong path. And I'm not excusing men for what they do. I'm just saying, I mean, if an angel couldn't resist himself, then, you know. So anyways, they began to have children, the fallen angels, because they're not good angels anymore. They're not angels of the Lord anymore. The devil took it. This is what I see happening. So this is how I see it. God's like, okay, angels, you are to watch over this person. Angel, you're going to watch over this person, assigned to all these people. But some of them were women. And the angels began to look at them. And then I believe that the devil was like, so you want that? You can have that. If you'll serve me, you can have that. Because clearly God doesn't love you. Look, he gave man a woman. What did he give you? He didn't give you no woman. Look at these human beings. They can have families. They can have children. And God didn't give you that. God just wants you to serve him only, and that's it. And I can only imagine the lies, the way that the devil would paint God to be so bad, that the angels were like, I want the woman, I really don't care what it takes. And then they bound themselves to a curse. That's what I see happening. I see the devil twisting it and convincing the angels that God doesn't care about you anyways. Because if he did, then he would have given you a female angel to have. And, y'all can have angel babies. And, that's what I see happening. So the fallen angels, they end up being with the woman and having babies. And those babies are where we get giants from. Or you can call them Nephilim. So those Nephilim, those giants, are not human beings at this point. Plus, the woman is now mixing with the fallen angel, so her DNA is contaminated. The baby is not a baby. It's not a human being. So, and then, this is getting a little bit ahead, but the giants, they had an animalistic hunger. Like, regular food would not satisfy their hunger, so they began to eat each other. They became cannibals. So, like the Canaanites, for example, those were cannibals. And so whenever I see people talking about why that God committed genocide, it's like, so you're okay with cannibalism, and plus on top of that, they weren't even human beings. Whenever I first heard about, God saying to wipe out a tribe, I just thought that they were like super evil people and they must have been like killing people or something, and like I just trusted God. And I'm like, okay, on this one, like, I have to trust. We need to trust the Lord, you guys, because He's love and He's always going to be doing things out of love. So He sent the flood because He loves you. That's really so. Another thing that I got curious about was, what would it be like to have a relationship with a fallen angel? So I'm just going to read to you. It says, and they taught mankind to make swords and knives, talking about the fallen angels. So, taught mankind to make swords and knives and shields and coats of mail, and taught them to see what was behind them, and their works of art, bracelets and ornaments, and the use of rouge, and the beautifying of the eyebrows, and the dearest and choicest stones, and all coloring substances, and the metals of the earth. And there was great wickedness and much fornication, and they sinned, and all their ways were corrupt. And one of them taught all the conjurers and root cutters, one of them the loosening of conjurations, one of them the astrologers, one of them the signs, and one of them taught astrology, and one of them taught the course of the moon. And there's another one. Hang on. Let me read this to you. And for a very long while wickedness extended and spread, and reached and laid hold upon the whole race of mankind, until a very small seed of righteousness remained among them, and illicit unions took place upon the earth, since angels were united with the daughters of the race of mankind, and they bore to them sons who for their exceeding greatness were called giants. And the angels brought, okay, here it is right here. And the angels brought as presents to their wives teachings of wickedness, in that they brought them the virtues of roots and herbs, dyeing in colors and cosmetics, the discovery of rare substances, love potions, aversions, amours, concupiscence, constraints of love, spells of bewitchment, and all sorcery and idolatry hateful to God, by the entry of which things into the world evil extended and spread, while righteousness was diminished and enfeebled. So the part that stuck out to me was constraints of love. Because think about it. These fallen angels were not ugly. Okay? And this fallen angel thinks that you are so beautiful that he will bind himself to a curse for you. But he's a freaking psychopath. He's a psychopath. Hang on a second. Where is it at? So this is First Enoch in chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. So let me read all this to you. Okay. First Enoch chapter 6, verse 1 through 8. And it came to pass, after the children of men had increased in those days, beautiful and comely daughters were born to them. And the angels, the sons of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said one to another, Behold, we will choose for ourselves wives from among the children of men, and will beget for ourselves children. And Semjaza, who was their leader, said to them, I fear that perhaps you will not be willing to do this deed, and I alone shall suffer for this great sin. Then all answered him and said, We all will swear an oath, and bind ourselves mutually by a curse, that we will not give up this plan, but we will make this plan a deed. Then they all swore together and bound themselves mutually by a curse, and together they were 200. And they descended on Ardis, which is the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn on it and bound themselves mutually by a curse. And these are the names. I'll do my best to read the names. Okay. And these are the names of their leaders. Semjaza, who was their leader, Yerakibaramiel, Akibiel, Tamiel, Ramuel, Danel, Ezekiel, Sarakujal, Esael, Armors, Betrayal, Anani, Zakib, Samsaviel, Sartael, Sartael, Turel, Jomjael, Arazjel. These are the leaders of the 200 angels, and the others all were with them. Talking about the 200 that swore that oath. So what I'm seeing is like, imagine like not serving God, like not having a relationship with God, and seeing these beautiful celestial heavenly beings coming out from the sky, coming down. And like, they're beautiful, and they're like looking at you like, I'm obsessed with you, like I love you, like you're so beautiful, like literally. So the fallen angel, a lot of women, it's enough for them to be looked at as beautiful, and that's it. That's not enough, but anyways, for some women who have low self-esteem, that's enough. They like to be told how beautiful they are. And yes, I mean, who doesn't want to be complimented, but it's just not enough. But anyways, the fallen angels, they were obsessed with these beautiful women. And so I imagine that the woman began to worship her husband. I mean, they got married. Like they went into covenant with each other. And they got married, and then they were also like marrying, like it was so perverted. But it said, the one that really got to me was where it said constraints of love. Like that's limiting and withholding love. And so of course the fallen angel is not going to truly be able to love, because you would never force somebody to be with you. It says that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, of all which they chose. So I mean, it wasn't like, hey ladies, which one of us do you want? It wasn't even like that. They took the wives, or they, so hang on. So for me, that's like a lot of abuse. It's very abusive. And they also, like, the whole relationship was so twisted, so perverted, so abusive. Being with a fallen angel, just to sum it up, it is complete torment. It is a hell of a relationship. I know. It's a bad relationship. It's not a relationship that you want to be in. I mean, to school, they'd be like, oh, I would want to be with a fallen angel. I've seen angels before. They're beautiful, but I saw angels of the Lord. These were not angels of the Lord anymore. Once they bound themselves to a curse, they were no longer angels of the Lord. But I do believe that they were beautiful. I was reading in the book here too. Let me see if I can find it. I had marked some pages. Sorry. It says, oh, he wrote, Rick Renner wrote, remember 2 Corinthians 11:14 states that Satan has the ability to transform himself into an angel of light. What was happening at that early moment in Earth's history was dark, devious, deceptive, and almost completely successful. As those rebellious angels were entering the physical realm of Earth, they outwardly appeared as glorious celestial beings, angels of light. It says, "It seems the people were so dumbfounded by the angels' godlike presence that they opened their arms to welcome them and even began to worship them." This also seems to be the time when pagan religions of idolatry were birthed. So these fallen angels, they gave us the ideas of weaponry. Coats of mail is like, like the armor and stuff like that. And one thing they taught him how to make was love potions. It's like the drinker of the love potion, like they just are like heart eyes for whoever gave him the drink. Like it's a love potion. It's being under a spell, a love spell. And I mean, God is love, and he wants us to love him because we want to love him. He doesn't force us to love him. He could totally force us to love him if he chose to. He's God. But forcing somebody to love is not true love. So God would never do that. But the fallen angels did. And there's a whole lot more of the story. But yeah, I mean, the way that God flooded the whole earth, and it wasn't just a local flood, it was the entire earth. The entire earth was totally drowned in water. For 40 days and for 40 nights, water was continuously going and going and going. So, yeah, everything was destroyed. Just about everything was. The only things that God would allow to live were, like, for example, the angels that went in 2 by 2, and then there was also I don't know, I think it was a pair, or it was 7 clean animals. That way Noah could make his sacrifices. The family of Noah could make sacrifices to the Lord. But everything was destroyed. There was no escaping that flood. Absolutely not. There's no way. Okay, imagine this. Imagine you go to the beach in a boat and you go and dive, and then they leave you there, and they leave you for dead. So you're out in the middle of this ocean, way far out. It would be really, really hard. And this is without a storm. This is just regular water. It would be really, really hard to not get exhausted and to drown from exhaustion. And we're talking massive flooding, insane, catastrophic hurricane weather, like insane hurricane weather. I mean, God was destroying the earth. God was destroying everything. You're not gonna make it. You're going to die. And the Lord gave mankind 120 years to repent, but they would not. They just would not. They wanted to continue, both man and woman. It wasn't just women. I don't know if you've heard the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was not just women doing this, but the reason why God sent the flood was because their DNA was contaminated, and the Lord wanted to send Jesus, and he needed a perfect. Okay, so let's go to Genesis. It's Genesis chapter 6 too, yeah. Okay, so Genesis chapter 6, verse, I'll start from 8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. All right, stop. He was perfect in his generations. It doesn't say that Noah was perfect. It says he was perfect in his generations. What does that mean? It means that his bloodline, his DNA was not contaminated because he did not participate in the whole fallen angels stuff. And so, and neither did his family. So That's why they were saved. And it amazes me that God would say, all right, look, everybody has to, I'm going to kill every single living, breathing being, excuse me, on this earth except for you and your family. And he went to this whole extreme of teaching Noah how to make this massive ark so that he would survive this flood. And those drogue stones, you guys, are I'm so fascinated with the drogue stones, and to this day there's 26. The Noah's Ark can be found in Turkey on Mount Judy. It's spelled Cudi, but it's not pronounced cutie. It's pronounced Judy, Mount Judy. And the Bible does not say that where is it at? Hang on. Okay, so in Genesis chapter 8 verse 4 it says, "And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat." So there's two mountains. One of them is bigger than the other. And the ark is not at the top. When it says it rested, and the ark rested, it doesn't mean that, like, first of all, that mountain is actually a volcano. So yeah, the ark wouldn't even, with all that going on, it wouldn't even survive. But the ark is, let me show you a picture of the ark if you can see it here. Hold on. And please don't freak out about the book of Enoch. It's an extra biblical book. It's for history, and it's trusted by the Jewish people. And Jesus' brother, Jude, or is it James? I can find out if you want. They were quoting the book of Enoch, so I mean that's Jesus' brother. Oh, okay, here's the mountains of Ararat. See how there's two? And one of them, I don't know if you can tell, I didn't have it very level for you, but one of them is bigger than the other. One of them is taller than the other one. But it is a, let me find the page where it talks about the volcano. But yeah, y'all, God sent the flood because he loves us. And he's not some out to kill genocide God. Okay, so Mount Ararat is a stratovolcano that has erupted many times since the flood. If Noah's Ark had landed on the peak of Mount Ararat, it would not have survived these multiple eruptions that have occurred since the time of the flood. So here's an illustration of a stratovolcanic. Okay, so no, Noah's Ark is not at the top of that. And there were some people that were trying to say that, and they don't want to admit that they're wrong. But this right here, this book shows like scans that go beneath the level of the ground, and look at that shape. That's the shape of the ark currently. And whenever the mountain of the ark, Noah's Ark, appeared, it's very prophetic whenever it started to appear. 1947 and 48. So, and then also, if you're curious to know, because Moses is known as the author of the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. If you're wondering how he knew about this stuff, and well, the Enoch, it's said that Enoch has written, like, I think it's like the first 22 books of Enoch. But anyways, he wrote on clay tablets. Those were given to, passed on. And Noah got hold of them, took them on the ark with him. And so the word was spread out and stuff like that. So that's how Moses knew, and he was able to write about the giants and stuff like that. And the book of Enoch was found preserved, and I can show you a picture of the clay tablet. Just saw an illustration of fallen angels, very angry. Okay, here. So we have that. Hang on. Then these are some scrolls that were found. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about those two things. Mainly to answer those questions, how did God flood the earth? So I love this book, y'all. I learned so much. It's worth the money. It is worth reading, and I'm so grateful because, it talks about how, like, because Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man comes. So talking about, Jesus was talking about his return. So which means that the way that it was before the flood is the way it's going to be again. And we have all this stuff. Okay, look, I've never been an aliens person, but now I get it. It's the Great Deception. They're not aliens from outer space like what you think. No, it's fallen angels. And they have been indoctrinating us for decades. That's not what it is. It's fallen angels.